Yo, what is going on, guys? This is Beanie and welcome back to another video. We're getting back to the all-time series, guys. I have some explaining to do because I've taken a little while off from the all-time series. I did the National League West at first, and I had planned on doing this whole big elaborate thing where I ended up making a ton of the all-time teams, like creating the roster off of Diamond Dynasty and like playing them against each other. Well, that ended up being way too cumbersome for me to undertake. So I have kind of changed it up a little bit. I've thought about how much I really could handle, and I decided what we're going to do is we're going to go through all 30 teams, and then we're going to take the two best teams from the National League and the two best teams from the American League. I'm going to recreate those rosters, and then that'll give me time in between videos and stuff to kind of build the rosters that I think are going to make it or whatever. And at the end of everything, then we will play those guys and I'll let the CPU play against each other to find out who is the best team of all time in Diamond Dynasty, at least. So yeah, guys, if you've missed any of the previous episodes in this series, I may put a link to the playlist down in the description, but it's in a playlist. Just go to my playlist tab and click on All Time Series, and you should be able to see all the teams that I did from the NL West. But today we are starting with the National League Central, and we're going to do the St. Louis Cardinals. So let's get into it. Okay, starting off with the Cardinals, you have to go with the 96 overall Adam Wainwright. You just have to. This card is so underrated in my opinion. His per nines, and I think it's mostly because his per nines aren't fantastic, but his pitch selection is unbelievable. I've already done a player review on him, but that is a great card to start out. Next up, you have the 89 overall Mike Leake card, who is really solid as far as his stuff and his pitch selection goes, but he's not that great in the per nine department. Then you have to go over to the Live Series, and you have Carlos Martinez, who is one of my favorite Gold Live Series pitchers in the game. Very, very effective pitcher. And then you have the 82 overall Michael Waka, which a lot of people forget about, but a lot of people really liked using this card early in the year because he had kind of a funky delivery, had pretty good pitch selection. So he's pretty effective, but then after that, you don't really have a lot. So you have to go down, and the next best guy is the 78 overall Lance Lynn. So the bottom half of the rotation isn't great. The top half, in my opinion, is really good. Even though Mike Leake may be a little overrated, I think Waino and Carlos Martinez as your 1-2. And I just got a notification. Thanks, Curtis Mack. I appreciate that, buddy. You're now in a Beanie video forever. So congratulations on that. But yeah, so the top half of the rotation is pretty good. But below like the top 2 or 3, I'm not a huge fan, so I ended up scoring them basically an average, if not slightly below average. So I ended up assigning the starting pitchers, a score of a 4.9. Next up, we have the bullpen, and as you guys, the guys who watched my previous all-time teams, you know that getting a good bullpen is very, very difficult. But the Cardinals have a really, really solid one. They do a good job with the bullpen. Starting out, you have the 89 overall Pat Neshek. I don't know if this guy would necessarily be your closer. I would probably want either Jason Mott or Trevor Rosenthal to be the closer, but this guy would be a good middle reliever and probably one of the best in the game. And everybody knows about that sinker changeup combo. It's really, really effective. Then you have the 87 overall Jason Mott card. A lot of people kind of undersell this card because he doesn't have a breaking pitch, but he does have that changeup, which is really nice. And he throws his cutter pretty slow, so it kind of acts like a slider. So he's a very effective relief pitcher. Then you have the 86 overall Trevor Rosenthal card, which just went gold recently, and he is really, really good. Amazing stuff. Really solid per nines for a gold reliever. This is a guy that you could put on your ranked seasons teams. He is the guy that I would probably choose to end up being my closer. And then you go down and you have Sangwon Oh, who used to be a gold, and he's really effective. He's almost like a starting pitcher that doesn't have really good stamina. Like his per nines, his stuff, his pitch selection, they all kind of remind you of a starting pitcher. The only thing he doesn't have is stamina. So he's a pretty good option. But then you gotta start thinking about getting some lefty relievers. I always like to have at least two. but preferably 3 in my bullpen, and the Cardinals do that pretty well too. Brett Cecil is a very effective left-handed reliever. He has really good pitch selection. His per-nines aren't terrible. Very good option as a lefty. Then you also have Zach Duke, who has really solid per-nines. Doesn't throw too hard, but that's okay for a lefty. He's probably going to be your number 3 option as far as lefties go, because the next guy, where is he? I ended up picking Kevin Segrist over Sean Gilmartin, mostly because his per-nines and his stuff are just way better. And yeah, he has solid basic pitch selection. He has very solid stuff and really good per-nines for a bronze lefty reliever, kind of a budget beast. Their bullpen, guys, I really, really like it. They find a lot of value from places where you wouldn't necessarily find a lot of value on other teams. So I really like that. In my opinion, this is the best part of the team, is their bullpen. So I ended up giving them a score of a 7.2. Okay, now we got to go to the starting lineup, and the starting lineup is also really good, but if not a little bit weird, just because of the way that you have to kind of like put guys together. Starting out, obviously, you have to go with a 99 overall Yadier Molina. At this point, he definitely has an argument to be the best catcher in the game. I don't know if I would put him at the very tippy top, but he's certainly either 1 or 2. Fantastic defense, a really great hitter. You're getting a lot of value out of him in the catcher spot. And then at first base, you know, no downgrade at all. In fact, it's probably an upgrade. You have the 99 overall Albert Pujols, who honestly is probably one of the top 3 best hitters in the game. He just has everything: contact, power, vision, discipline, anything you want out of a hitter, he's got it. He's not the fastest guy in the world, doesn't have great defense, but at first base, really what you're looking for is a bat, and this guy comes through, you know, in every way imaginable. And then you move on to second base, and this was kind of tough, but I ended up putting Aledmus Diaz there. He does have that secondary at second base, which is really nice to have, because kind of finagling the lineup around, it's kind of hard finding middle infielders that fit in just right, but this guy definitely does, and he hits righties phenomenally. Like, he's great against righties for a middle infielder. Against lefties, though, he's probably a guy that you would have to platoon, and his defense also isn't great. So we're going to have to make up for that defense somewhere else, and we definitely do that with shortstop. There was no way that I could leave the 95 overall Ozzie Smith off this team. Yes, he's not the best hitter in the world, but against righties, he has great contact and vision, big PCI. He's just not going to have great exit velos or anything like that. He's kind of, as a hitter against righties, he's kind of like that D. Gordon, the flashback D. Gordon. But what this guy does bring is he brings phenomenal defense and a good amount of speed. Good enough defense and speed to where I wouldn't really platoon this guy at all, even though he's terrible against lefties. He has a speed to where he can still be a threat, and I don't know if you want that defense coming off the board. Plus, he's a switch hitter, so you're going to be hitting from the right side, so it's not going to be as bad as I think you think. So shortstop, we got that covered with a 95 overall Ozzie Smith. Then at third base was probably the toughest position to fill. I was looking around for a lot of different guys, but then I remembered that this Matt Carpenter is kind of a utility infielder. He can play anywhere. So I saw that he had a secondary at third base, and I decided to put him there. A big-time power guy against righties, especially right now. You can see he's playing up to 78, 99, a big-time power threat in your lineup. So that's nice to have at third base. And then we have to move on to the outfield, and the outfield is really good. Really good. Like, I really like this outfield. In left, obviously, you have to put this 93 overall Matt Holliday card. A big-time bat. You kind of have to hide his defense a little bit. It's not great, but in left field, that's okay. You know, if you're not going to put a guy at first base and he has bad defense, left field is probably the way that you want to go. But yeah, he's a very, very good hitter. Mid-80s in like everything except contact versus lefties, which is 98, which is great. So we have a big hitter there. And then in center field, you know, I thought I was going to put this Lou Brock in center, but he actually doesn't have center field as a secondary. Plus, his defense probably wouldn't play all that great in center field anyway. So I ended up putting this 85 overall Tommy Pham card, and if you go watch my player review from his episode, you know that I'm a big fan of this Tommy Pham card. Yeah, his defense isn't the best. Yeah, he's fast, but he's not super fast, and his hitting stats are just good. They're not great, but his hitting stats plus this little quirk he has in a swing, it's kind of like Carlos Correa's swing. It looks ugly, but it really gets the job done, and it really makes his hitting stats play up. So I really like having this guy in center field. I think he's going to be a big bat with a small amount of speed. Of course, he's not going to play great defense. This outfield is not going to be great defensively, but I think it's worth giving up the defense to get all of these big bats in the lineup. Plus, there aren't any other really great options. So, in right field, I know a lot of people are going to hate this because Lou Brock doesn't have an arm, but he's just such a good hitter, guys, versus lefties, versus righties, that honestly, I could care less about the arm. You're getting 99, 78, 80 against righties, plus 99 speed with 97 stealing. This guy is a huge offensive threat, and his defense, honestly, with 87 reaction, he gets to a lot of balls. And I don't think his defense is really all that bad. I played this guy a lot this year, and he has never really hurt me on defense. Yeah, his arm, he has a noodle, but who really cares? So that is the lineup. Now let's put together the bench to see if we can churn out a final score for this team. A lot of you guys may have been wondering why I skipped over the 94 Orlando Cepeda. Honestly, I just couldn't find a spot for him. He doesn't have any secondaries like some of his other cards do. They have secondaries in the outfield. This guy doesn't. So you have to play him at first base, basically. And nobody is taking the spot of that 99 Albert Pujols. So you have to throw this guy on the bench. But that's okay because this is your pinch hitter. If you need a pinch hitter in a spot, you're going to go to the 94 overall Orlando Cepeda. And he is going to be a beast, especially against left-handed pitching. So it's not really nice to have him on the bench. And then you move on down. There aren't any more golds or diamonds or anything, but there are some really good silvers. So this 84 overall Carlos Beltran card is going to be an important card for you because if you need to platoon with Lou Brock, you can do that with this card because that Lou Brock really isn't great versus left-handed pitching, but this card is really solid. Plus, he can hit righties okay too. With that 69-90, he's a big power threat versus lefties, and being that switch hitter is very, very valuable to have on the bench. So yeah, he's a nice card. And then we needed to get kind of a utility infielder type. So we got this Jed Jerko card, a big-time hitter versus righties, and he's not terrible versus lefties. He can play a few different positions, very valuable guy to have on the bench. And then we needed one more outfielder, so we decided to go with the 80 overall Dexter Fowler, and he is a switch hitting, he used to be kind of a five-tool guy. He's not really that anymore, but he does have a decent arm. He does have decent reaction. His speed isn't terrible. He's a switch hitter. Whenever he's playing up, he can hit well versus both sides. He's a valuable guy to have. And I've said this in my other episodes that I always have to have a backup catcher because I feel like that's what they do in real life. And I want to make this kind of a mixture between, video game and real life. So I decided that on all these all-time teams, I have to have at least two catchers on the team. And unfortunately, that means that we have to put Carson Kelly on the all-time team. Obviously, this guy is a top prospect, and there's a really good chance that he turns into an absolute stud in the major leagues. But right now in MLB The Show, he kind of sucks. And, so he kind of eats a bench spot, and he doesn't really bring any type of value, really at all. But yeah, maybe he'll get better in the future, and he'll be a better player for the all-time team. So yeah, guys, that is the lineup. And taking into account the bench, all the depth, how good the defense is versus how good the offense is, I ended up penalizing them a little bit because it's not a great defensive team. Like, you have Yadier and you have Ozzy, who are obviously studs defensively, but everywhere else it's kind of bad. Like, people, they really are probably not going to be good defensively for you, but they're going to be great hitters. Your offense is going to be awesome, so if you can pitch well, this is going to be a solid team for you. So I scored their lineup and their bench at a 6.4. and whenever you add up all of their scores, it churns out a final score of an 18.5. So this is the first team that we've done in the NL Central. We'll see how the other teams stack up in future episodes. But anyways, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Please like, sub, share if you enjoyed it. I will see you guys later on today with a stream. We're going to be drafting our fantasy football team. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. And we're also going to be playing some Battle Royale after that. I'm really close. I'll just show you guys in the video. I'm 9-0, and I have the 95 overall chipper as my 12 win, and I really want that card because he is really valuable. So come and check that out later on today, guys, and I will see y'all later. Peace.